Drum up. Bakugan Pro.
Bakugan Pro.
Ability activate. Electric Howl. Bakugan Pro.
Bakugan Pro. Toxify now, Vylock.
Ability activate. Holy Flame. Don't give up. We've almost won, FENNECA.
I will not be defeated by the likes of you, awesome ones.
Enough! Reed, it's time to unlock the Geogon! Now witness the dawn of true power.
Starting off the review is Viloch. Now, Ventus Vylock is pretty good, at least for Geogun Rising standards, when it was released. He has a core lineup of a red fist and a blue shield, B power of 600 with 5 damage, and then an extra ability, Victor, so if it wins the brawl, you do get to scan as well. That ability works very well with the Darkest and Ventus Scrounge Precon deck. Also, homemade scan decks or scrounge decks also are very good. That's about the only time I see that scan ability really play out. As far as B power, 600 is really low, but you do have access to a blue or magic shield. So if you're using the plus 650, you're at least going to get up to 1250, and that's something. As far as competitive viability, I don't think Ventus Vylock is that strong per se, but with the addition of Nanogon in Bakugan Evolutions, it's definitely easier. And there I see we had a little card slip. Just trying to use the channel mascot to hold the car up. There we go. So yeah, with the addition of Nanogon, I guess Ventus Vylock is a little better. There is Ventus Riptide, which lets you add a core on a Flaming Fist, so that gives Vylock a little bit of combo potential. Now, as far as the rest of the Ventus Nanogon that are released, they don't really add up with Vylock's cores, so you would either have to use a few different Bakugan with Vylock, or different factions, so that you have access to other Nanogon that could help him. But all in all, I think he is a really cool Bakugan, which is why I continually do these Vylock videos. So I hope you all enjoy, and stay tuned for the Geogon. Next up is Babadrill. For those of you who don't know, this Geogon makes up the main body of Ultimate Vylock, or at least the center. As far as the card is, it costs 1 energy to play, a B power of 1000, 1 damage, and then if Babadrill lands on a regular or a green fist, you do get an extra 500 B power. So for Geogun standards, at least the initial run in Geogun Rising, this Babadrill is very good, especially in green fist strategies. There was a Pegatrix that was released in Evolutions, the Ventus one. It is a double green fist Bakugan, and it is just a huge powerhouse, so these two would pair very nicely. Otherwise, if you're playing it with your Vylock in that deck, it does give a little bit of versatility on the core that you need. Babadrill could certainly be an early turn or an early game win, costing only 1 energy and being able to get up to potentially 1600 or 1650 B power is just really solid. Not a lot of damage there to work with, but at least from my opinion, Babadrill is all about that B power, so he's really about just winning you the brawl, right? And that's where that's important. A few other of the Geogon included in the Ultimate Ventus Vylock set, I guess. A few of them do focus on damage, but that is definitely not Babadrill. As for the figure, he is very, I guess, baboon monkey-esque. The mold itself is very simple, having to be the main body that everything connects to. Spin Master couldn't make it too unique or too out there. It's really just a center with a ton of holes, but the card-wise, Babadrill is very nice, and I definitely like this version the most, because in my opinion, it's the strongest. Next, I thought I would go ahead and start off with the tail of Ultimate Vylock, that being, of course, Insectra, which I've had to move the card away for obvious reasons. So starting off with the stat line, Ventus Insectra cost 3 energy, a B power of 1400 with 1 damage, and then if it lands on a Helix, you're going to get a plus 400 B power and a plus 4 damage boost, as well as another ability. So Victor, if it wins the brawl, you do get to initiate the team attack if it's the third Bakugan, Geogon, open. So that is very interesting, very powerful for 3 energy. You know, using a Helix that gives you plus 5 minus 1 will get you up to 2400 B power and then 4 damage. So not a lot of damage, but again, really B power heavy, almost guaranteeing you're going to win the brawl and then get off that Victor team attack. So it does require some setup, some placement as far as when you use Insectra, but again, it could be very powerful with that team attack ability, and also really, really strong. Like, I believe the Victor team attack, I think that's overlooked just because Geogon in general are overlooked a whole lot. So I don't sleep on it. If it was up to me, I think everyone should use at least one Geogon with this, because no one expects it, and when it hits the table, excuse me, and when it hits the table, it is definitely worth it. But that is it for the stats of Insectra. Of course, you don't want to go wasting Nanogon on your Geogon, which is why I didn't bring it up for Bobadrill, and I won't do it for Insectra either. I believe Geogon should be standalone cards, or like power play cards that win you that turn. If not, why even use them, right? Why bother? But for the figure, it is really nice. Probably the most, I guess, representative of the card art out of all of them. And that's just because it's a simple design. You know, it looks like the character it's supposed to. But again, the Ventus coloring, really awesome on all of these, and I definitely like them. Alright, on to the first leg then, and that is Swarmer. So Ventus Swarmer has an energy cost of 5, a B power of 1400, and 15 damage if you can believe it. You're right, that energy cost is really high, but listen to me everyone, it's worth it. That is a lot of damage to get through if you do win. I mean, later on in the game, let's face it, your opponent's already used up some resources by turn 5, you've used up some. Hopefully you can just pick the right time to slap down this Swarmer, win, and get that damage through. Also, 1400 B power is not bad at all. Obviously I'm using this in a deck with a Viloch, so I can only really use Viloch's cores to represent like the B power amounts, I guess you could say. So using Viloch's plus 650 blue shield, that is going to get you up to 2050. It's a little better on a Swarmer. You know, it's not the strongest out there per se, but it's definitely competitive. It has a shot at winning the brawl, and I think that's really important. Again, 15 damage going through. Like, if you can pull that off, that's like a third of the deck, a fourth of the deck almost. Almost, not quite. The numbers are a little off, but you all know what I'm trying to say. That is a lot of cards off the top of the deck. So Swarmer's definitely a damage Bakugan, whereas when we saw with Ventus Insectra and Bobadrill, they focused more on the B power. So here's just an example of how Spin Master switches it up, at least amongst the Vylock Geogon. So really interesting. The mold itself is again very basic and very representative of the character itself. Being the foot of Viloch, it's almost like the Ghost Beast. You can't really put a lot to it. It has to be really simple because at the end of the day, it's a foot. So moving on. Speaking of Ghost Beast, here he is. So Ventus Ghost Beast has an energy cost of 6, which is the highest I have reviewed so far for the Ventus Ultimate Vylock Geogon, and I do believe he does cost the most out of all of them, but for good reason. With a B power of 2900, there's like literally no Bakugan that just landing on the Bakucore are going to get over him, so that's a good thing to note. And then 5 damage also isn't horrible, so take it how you wish. 6 energy, you know, there are ways to cheat this out with various ramp strategies or Pyrus strategies. I know the Battle Brawler's Dan Kuzo lets you play a card off the top if it's not a flip, or something like that. Air Zero lets you play the card off the top of your deck, or reveal it if it's not a flip, you can play it for free. There are a few other cards like that, so those are really strong. And then of course you have energy ramp like Solar Powered, Turn to Energy, Fuel the Flames, all those good cards that could easily get you up to that 6 energy point so that you can play your Ghost Beast and definitely win the brawl at that point, because we're not even adding any kind of Baku core Ghost Beast could land on, and if you just start adding that in, it gets really ridiculous. For example, if you use that plus 650 included with Ventus Vylock, you're at 3550 or 3500 depending, you could use the 600 one, just depending on what core you have. Either way, that is ridiculous. Getting past 3000 B power is insane, and there's only a very limited amount of Geogon that can do this, Ventus Ghost Beast being one of them. So yeah, really cool stats. It does require the energy cost. Like, you're gonna pay for this Geogon, but once paid for, I think it is going to be worth it. Luckily in Bakugan we don't have to worry about too many negate cards. And then for the mold, again, really simple, just like I was saying with Swarmer. It's a foot, so they can't throw a lot of detail in there. We've almost made it through Ultimate Vylock, because now we're on to the front legs, and it's about to get a little froggy. That's right, this is Ventus Amfrog, and it is a piece of Vylock, so for 6 energy, you're going to get an investment of a B power, 2400, and then 12 damage, which is really good. Unfortunately, it's a lot less than Ghost Beast. You definitely want to use Ghost Beast first, but if you've already used him, or the opponent flipped him off the top and he's now in your discard pile, Amfrog is the way to go. Pretty much the same argument I made for Ghost Beast applies to Amfrog. Amfrog just having way more damage, I'm talking 7 more damage, for the cost of only 500 B power. So relatively speaking, that is practically the same as Ghost Beast. I mean, they're both meant for the same purpose. Heavy hitting Geogon to ensure the victory or ensure the brawl, and then clinch the win and get some damage through. That's what I meant to say. Blah, blah, blah. We all know I can't talk. If you've been watching my channel for a few years now, yeah, it happens. Sorry about that. Otherwise though, a few interesting things to note about our Froggy boy here. He did get 2 releases, so he was released initially in Geogon Rising. That is not the mold I have on display for you all. The one I am displaying is actually the one that released in Evolutions. That's right. So Amfrog was released twice. Sadly, I don't have 2 cards up here because the card was the same. Kind of a shame of Spin Master re-released the Geogon but give it the same stats. Missed potential in my opinion, but that's a whole nother story. So anyway, I do have the Evolutions Amfrog just for a different bit of coloring, and because the other foot I wanted them to match. Get into that in the next segment, but all in all, here is Ventus Amfrog. Does look kind of cool. The face looks like a frog, but the rest of the Bakugan, you're left wondering, what exactly is this? Alright brawlers, we've made it to the last and final piece of Ventus Ultimate Vylock. That being the last front leg, Skyhorse. So just like Amfrog, Ventus Skyhorse was released in Evolutions, the only exception being it did not have a Geogon Rising counterpart. So when Evolutions dropped and everyone saw the Battle Strike pack for Skyhorse, I'm sure they all flipped out and got super excited. I did too, because the release of Skyhorse meant that the Ventus Ultimate Vylock was actually possible, because this was the last piece to release that everyone needed for the set. So I thought that was really cool, really interesting that they waited until the very next year to release it. But that's why I used the Evolutions Amfrog, just to break up the color palette a little bit and to have 2 Geogon that match within the set. The other 4, of course, being Geogon Rising, they're all the same colors. And then Vylock as well. So yeah, that's why I used the Skyhorse, that's why I used the other Amfrog, just kind of match up the set a little bit. But moving on to the stats for Skyhorse. So for 3 energy, you get a B power of 704 damage. The energy cost is lower, but not a lot of power there until you look at that ability. So if Skyhorse lands on a Green Fist, which there are plenty of strong Bakugan that have Green Fist you could use, we're not even getting into that. Just saying, if it lands on a Green Fist, it gets an extra 800 B power. Now I know Green Fist only give 100 to 150 B power, so if you add it all up, you're only looking at a gain of 900 or 950 in total. That's still good. Like, getting your B power up to 16 or 1650 is definitely worth it. Now I know this is a Geogon, so the turn you play it, you gotta win or you're losing it, right? You're just going -1 on a card, or potentially negative more if you use other cards to bump up your Skyhorse. So it is a little iffy, I get that, but definitely worth considering, especially with Ultimate Vylock, and of course with other Ventus decks that really work around Green Fist strategies. For the figure itself, really awesome. Love the evolution's coloring. It does have a few manual parts, just like Ghost Beast's front legs. The little tail there at the end, that's Vylock's foot, and then the little snoot all falled out. Otherwise, completely manual like a majority of the Geogon. But that does it for the review. Up next, assembly. Alright, now that I've reviewed the stats, it's time to go ahead and take a look at how to assemble the Ultimate Ventus Vylock. So starting off with Vylock himself, all you have to do is open him and get him ready for the rest. Starting off with the main body for the combiner is Babadrill. Now in order to prep Babadrill for combining, all you have to do is flip up the center peg, and then the majority of the Bakugan, well, all of the Bakugan stays closed. So Babadrill is relatively easy to get ready for combination. Starting off with one of the back legs is Ghost Beast. Now just like Babadrill, there's not a lot you have to do. Simply fold out the leg piece and then the peg of Ghost Beast while keeping the Bakugan closed, or Geogon, sorry. And yeah, that's all you have to do for prep. Now the other back leg of Ultimate Vylock is a bit trickier. It is Swarmer, so what you're going to want to do is open the entire Bakugan, close everything but the back tail, which you actually snap in the opposite direction. You will hear a click. Don't worry, brawlers, you're not breaking it. It simply snaps into position. Afterwards, fold out the foot. And then once you've done that, you can simply fold out the peg on the back, and then that is the other back leg of Ultimate Vylock. Prepping Insectra can be a little tricky, but it's really simple once you get the hang of it. All you have to do is fold in Insectra's head, fold out the peg on top, click the last segment of the tail backwards, much like Swarmer's piece, and then you click the wings forward as well. This creates the side armor as well as the tail of Ultimate Vylock. Now the first front leg of Vylock is of course Amfrog. To prep Amfrog for combination, you open the entire Bakugan much like Insectra, and then you close everything but the foot side, which you fold out the foot piece and then you leave it open. It also clicks back while the rest of the Bakugan is closed, and then on the other other arm of Amfrog, you can fold out the peg. Finally, there is Skyhorse, which just like the previous mentioned two, you want to open completely all the way up, keep the tail piece open when you close it, flip out the foot part, and then there is a peg on the back. So again, definitely simple to get ready, but there are some steps, and then that is the final front leg of Vylock. Once you have everything ready, you can start to combine it. It is really simple to do so, that's why I didn't show the actual combining process. You really just line up the pegs with the appropriate holes, and it all just clicks right together. It is a really great combination piece, and very interesting at that. So brawlers, thank you all for watching. It is definitely a very interesting combiner. Definitely my favorite capstone product of the Generation 2 Bakugan. I really do like it. It's a shame that Ultimate Vylock wasn't released in all of the factions. I know Spin Master got really close with Chaos. The only Chaos that we're missing is Vylock himself, but all of the Geogon released in Chaos, so definitely a shame there. But there is the full Ventus and of course the full R-less Ultimate Vylock set, both of which are really neat, and I have reviewed multiple Vylocks on the channel. If you're a Vylock fan like me, definitely check out the links below, because I have the native faction Vylock, the ultimate Vylock, the very first time I built a Vylock, and then a whole week of Vylock celebration deck ideas and deck builds. Well, there's not another segment, but I want to thank you all for watching and tuning in for my ultimate Ventus Vylock video. I definitely hope that it was a little different than my other content. I am working on editing and making my content better, so hopefully that worked out. But regardless, thank you all for tuning in, thank you all for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so, it really helps me out. And go ahead and like this video so I know what kind of videos you all like to watch, and go ahead and pop out some ideas in the comments down below. What do you all want to see on the channel coming up for Generation 3? Until next time, stay safe, drum up, and Bakugan Brawl!